They were everywhere in our British social history, weren't they? They were part of our culture and the backbone of our social network. What am I talking about? Those busy, bustling community social clubs, labour clubs, conservative clubs or working men's clubs, whatever you want to call them. They had people laughing, talking and connecting in our local areas. So we're having another night out in the 1970s, equipped with a few pounds, and I mean a few pounds. Maybe a set of darts or a box of dominoes for a well-deserved night out, whether with family or friends. Let's remember the nights out we enjoyed and wonder what the young people are missing out on, even though they're not even aware. Can you remember walking into a social club and knowing most of the people there, feeling comfortable just joining them at a table? People weren't looking into their mobile phones or scrolling or looking at Facebook or even watching those videos, those annoying ones with their ear-piercing noise. Folks were dressed up and ready for a good night out without the use of social media in their pockets or phones glued to their hands. The social club was exactly what the title stated. You were there to interact, join in with whatever was happening on that night. Dress code, just making sure that your shoes were polished and your hair was brill creamed, with a little bit of high karate or Charlie for the ladies. However, ladies wore dresses, and many men wore jackets and trousers. Jeans and trainers were not the norm, and neither were tracksuits nor trainers with a skirt. Oh dear. Let's begin with, when you were out, you were out. No one calling or text messaging asking where you were. The only communication was the phone behind the bar that would ring, and the barmaid would say something like, "Mickey, what shall I tell them?" And you could say them in a whisper, "I'm not here." And you were safe for at least another half an hour with your friends. No trackers on your phone, nothing like that. Just a warning that dinner was on the table or don't stay out too late. And when was the last time you walked into a drinking hole when people were playing darts or dominoes or cards? And I don't mean people of a certain age. All ages would join in. It was the era where there wasn't flat screen TVs plastered all over the walls, so folks could just stare at the screen just like they could have done at home. Sports bars, they call them. Perhaps one TV behind the bar being viewed by those sitting at it with a choice, rather than everyone being distracted by those 50-inch screens. It's human nature to end up looking at that screen and suddenly shutting up. And talking about the bar, you had many stools at the bar itself. People just sat and talked, and if you came into the club alone, it wouldn't take you long before you could join in with a chat and put down your newspaper. That newspaper that you bought in, just in case you might be sat alone for a while. Perhaps one fruit machine instead of 10 dotted around the place that made it look like an amusement arcade like the pubs today. And instead of music playing constantly, there was something much, much more entertaining and interesting, and that was conversation. Now, before I go any further, I know there are still many social clubs today, but they're dying out, or they're getting more and more empty, or having to put up with new ideas to get people in. But in the 1970s, you'd have a job getting a seat, or there'd be a queue at the bar for half the night. I find sadly that this is the older generation like me that use these clubs today. What will happen to them in 20 years? Or even pubs themselves? But there weren't just public bars. There were entertainment hubs, all rolled into one. Discos, cabaret bars, bingo halls, and cheap and very well managed. Not forgetting the buffet bar that offered you decent, affordable food. Not everyone drank alcohol either. You'd see many having a tomato juice or a soft drink, and they were just there for the entertainment and to be with friends. It reminds me of that programme, the Will Tabbers and Shunters, the committee and all that. But even as a kid, these clubs, just drinking pop and having a bag of crisps, some of these club committee members were like local celebrities, very well respected. Always be on your best behaviour and all that. And what else did social clubs offer? A regular place for those living alone to avoid isolation. A place where people felt safe and comfortable. Relaxation, mostly within walking distances from their homes. There were times when large businesses had their own social clubs like the Electric Board, the Coal Board, British Rail and even London Underground. It was like being in your own living room with an extended family amongst the decor of whiskey water jugs, ashtrays and flat wallpaper. Mind you, those loos they were always bloody freezing, weren't they? Everyone joined in, young and old, tipped hats and courtesy, and evening all. The cabaret, as I mentioned, could be anything from a comedian to a drag act, with the humour a little bit cheeky, the banter, and albeit the jokes of the 1970s are very much taboo today, but not a lot of swearing either. Live comedy today seems to be the more they swear, the funnier they think they are. You never heard the F word on the BBC. Come to think of that in the 1970s. Well, you do now, Mrs. Brown. That feeling of being a member for a small yearly fee, being signed in and obeying their sometimes rather complicated rules. I can remember playing the fruit machine, which meant that you had to have a member stood with you on busy nights. You could even be turned away. But mainly the ruling was how to conduct yourself in a proper manner. No matter how working class you were, people just respected each other. And what about the drinks, eh? Remember light and bitter, pint and mild, port and brandy, and when we thought we were really celebrating, we had a screwball or a poor man's black velvet. It was supposed to be Guinness and champagne, but we settled for cider top. And lager, what the hell was that? Or a Campari, a martini or Cinzano with Coke and lemonade. And Christmas time meant eggnog or advocaat. Then the last order's bell would ring, and it took people at least half an hour to say goodnight to each other. You know what, those were really the days, weren't they? And the more I talk about it, the more I miss it dearly. Why, in some places there would be a waiting list to even join these social clubs. Now, they were clever. They kept the prices down by holding events such as jumble sales, fetes, having memberships, and there was a weekly tote. Now, please help me out here because I have absolutely no idea what an actual tote was. I just remember people talking about it. So, if you do know what one is, please let me know in the comments. I mean, I could look it up, but I know you guys are very generous, and I think one of you will tell me. And there was a room for private functions such as wedding parties and birthday bashes. Even meetings such as trade union gatherings and local council elections were held there. And there was that coach trip, wasn't there? Always arranged, and everybody wanted to be on it. And that coach was always packed. It would be a long journey, calling at the pubs on the way there and calling at the pubs on the way back. One to have a drink in, and the next one to have a pee. But that brought the money in, and everyone benefited through lower bar prices. And let us not forget the Christmas party for members, and there was always a small Christmas present for every child, and food was aplenty. Lunch and meat, vol au vents, those sticks with all those little pineapple and cheesy things on them stuck in a sort of potato shape like a hedgehog. Wonderful times. No one was filming on their mobile phones either, were they? People were getting together and taking photographs, but not interrupting people all night by doing those silly bloody selfies. You couldn't wait to go to the chemist to get your photographs processed, some with their heads missing or with the red eyes. But those photographs were put in albums. There were hard copies and a recording of the fun we had in the 1970s with the people that we really wanted to share the day or the evening with. You can't beat a good old photo album. And even though there were just rows of tables and lino floors and basic deco, and probably they looked a bit tired, the atmosphere was what lit it up. The place and the voices that echo in our thoughts when remembering those we befriended and loved from those golden days that bring those memories to life. Those names and faces that maybe not be with us today, but they're never forgotten and they're always talked about with fondness. And I'll bet you remember these people that had their seats kept for them because you knew exactly when they were going to turn up and what time they were going to be there. And kids, they were never shoved in one room like the pubs of the day. They were included, and many of them had safe play areas, and it was part of the community to have the kids around you. It was a wonderful spirit. Now, even though teenagers did go to these social clubs, but when these places closed, normally about 11 o'clock, they had a choice to go to the local discotheque. Yes, we called them discotheques in them days, not nightclubs. A club to me is where you become a member. A discotheque is somewhere where you just boogie on down. There's flashing lights and mirror balls and the hits of the day. Not all this "I only have one line" rubbish, or this housey music. There were proper songs, and we loved to dance. In fact, we loved to dance to the lyrics, didn't we? Stop, I'm spinning like a top. You get the meaning, don't you? Now, I wonder if you have a social club near you and you still frequent it, and I wonder if it's as busy as it's ever been. Sadly, where I live, they do seem to be dying out, and it's a terrible shame. It was a great way for communities to really connect. So please let me know in the comments what you think about your local social club, or whether you haven't got one anymore and you miss it, or you're lucky to have one and it's still running well today. As part of my investigation, I ought to have gone to a social club. So I did. And I went to a social club the night before last, and it was very atmospheric, and it was bingo. And I was the youngest one there. And we played bingo, and I went and won. Well, I had a few little drinkies, and I shouted out, "Bingo!" And then there was somebody said, "No, you haven't won because you've missed it." So apparently, I realise now, if you don't shout on the number and they call another number out, you get out. So will I dare walk into that social club again with my head up high? No, my investigation is complete. However, it was a fantastic atmosphere. So I thought I'd do a little bit of research. I'm not going to tell you how much it was that I would have won. No, I will actually. It was £150. It was the last house. When I had a few drinks, it didn't seem to bother me. But when I woke up the next morning with a bit of a hangover, I was a little bit sore. Anyway, I wondered what you thought of that video, all about social clubs of the 1970s, maybe the 70s, the 80s, and even some today. So I just want to say thank you very much for watching, as normal. And all your subscribers are making some lovely comments, and I'm really pleased. Thank you. You know, apart from the one that says, "What am I doing this load of rubbish, sponging money off YouTube?" So I thought to myself, I'm going to be honest. I earned £2.36 from that video that she commented on. So I decided to offer her which charity she'd like me to donate it to. I'm doing it for pleasure. Anyway, that leaves me to say I have got other social history videos on my channel where we talk about all sorts of things. Christmas and childhood and food and all that kind of nostalgia. And also somebody mentioned about my channel, and they said, you know, if you was to change your channel, I don't know whether that would work, because he said, it was a lovely thing to say, Marcus, he said, well, we watch all these bulletins on the TV, on the news and everything that's going on that's bad, and then we watch your channel for comforting nostalgia. So somebody else said, why don't I call it Mickey's Nostalgia Channel? What about that? I have rabbited on enough, took enough of your time, saying thank you very much. And there's a like button, and also there's a little bell I've been told about, a little notification bell, and apparently you can choose to either have now and again, or you can have every single video that I throw at you for you to look at. So have a look at it, because I have noticed that a lot of my subscribers either bored of me, could be, or they're not noticing my videos. Rabbited on enough. Rabbited on enough. I'll see you next time. Thank you.